Digital marketing for HVAC and home service businesses.
Strategies and stories from industry experts to help you succeed.
Aloha, Jim. Welcome to the Outwork'em Podcast. Thanks for being here today. Jim and his wife, Tenille, are owner-operators of AAA Tiny Home, and they service all of the Hawaiian Islands. So thank you so much for being here today, Jim, and we're excited to ask you about your business, and would love to know how you guys got started, first of all.
Well, thank you guys for having us, and for you, Jana, for making this opportunity available to us and really ultimately the community. And we got started living in tiny homes when I met my wife 12 years ago. Gosh, from literally the first date at McDonald's, which was just kind of like a weird date. She told me about tiny homes and that she followed this program called Tiny Home Nation. And that was it. From there on out, it was like every day she'd show me a video, We were living in Missouri at the time. And just a couple years later, we found ourselves coming out to the Hawaiian Islands. And we were boyfriend, girlfriend at that time. And I proposed out here and we got married out here and built a life. We pretty much grew up in the Lahaina area. And so we did multiple jobs in Lahaina, kind of executive jobs. We got situated in Lahaina when we got to Hawaii and Maui. And we worked some different jobs out there. And before long, she was pushing for a tiny home. So our first tiny home, I traded our car for a 30-foot bus. And they'd had it set up with like a party bus, right? And it had a stripper pole and all this stuff in it, right? And kind of a funny story. And we found a guy who would remodel it for us and turn it into a tiny home. And so we met with that guy and we found a location where he could work out of. And I was like, well, you might want to leave this and this. And my wife's like, nope, I want you to cut it. And like, I was like telling him, well, don't cut everything, leave this. And we went to lunch and come back and that whole thing was gutted. He goes, I was more scared of your wife than you. So, and I'm glad it turned out that way because she has the vision. She, really does, and she loves the part of living tiny, right? And getting everything to fit and to be practical. So that was really important. So our first tiny home got 11 miles to the gallon and we traveled Maui a lot. We had a spot for our bus, but we loved to travel. So we'd find ourselves sleeping at this beach and this beach. We had a vibration company where we did whole body vibration plates. Very successful business. We started that in Maui and we did really good in COVID. Just 100% killed that because you had to be vaxxed. You had to have a mask and that wasn't really our prescription. We were more down-to-earth people. But anyways, one thing led to another, and we lived a few years tiny home living. We got another tiny home, and we took care of 350 acres up in Haiku. So we got to use that land, and we put we took our bus there, and we put up a couple other tiny homes. Then I went to, both Tenille and I went to work for a tiny home company. And that didn't last long. They just turned out to be not to have much integrity. And that was really big for both Tenille and I, We come from a hard upcoming. So we already knew that, we'd found our way ourselves away from the drugs, the alcohol, and living a good, clean life. And we just knew that, integrity had to be our cornerstone. Plus, we just wanted to help. The reason for us getting into tiny homes was we're very much motivated by the problems that both Maui and the rest of Hawaii was, under pressure for rental. The cost of living out here is just enormous. So providing a bridge for something that was cost effective and a nice little home was very exciting for us. It was a logical area for us to step into. So once we quit working for that company, we just started, we started a company, AAA Tiny Homes, and we got a couple orders right away. One was a custom order where they wanted a custom tiny home built on a trailer, 2 levels, downstairs, upstairs. And we completed that project. And we also were getting into prefabs at that time. So we had our Skyview model, very, very popular until the fire came and people were needing a little bit more space. But it had a all glass front, and it was a prefab that slid apart. And it was 250 square feet of apartment living, one room, and everything was studio, like a studio. Yep. So that was really popular. So we were doing both prefabs. We were doing stick built. We built this really cool tiny home. We had this idea that we want, instead of 2 levels, we made the second level go to the roof. We put railings up there. We put stairs and a passageway from inside the home to get up to the roof. And it was a complete full deck out there with a barbecue. And
that's awesome.
So that was, we did that one, and we did a few others. And then the fire hit. Once the fire hit, the demand, we had our base yard in Lahaina. We had an apartment in Lahaina. And when the fire hit, we weren't really staying at that apartment. It was more like a business apartment. But we were kind of between Haiku and Lahaina. And when the fire hit, it just changed everything. We lost our base yard. We were in Lahaina at that moment during the first fire. Then when they called that fire safe and under control, we were like, well, this is crazy. How can you call it under control? We could still see the smoke, and the winds were going like so high. I mean, literally the front of our vehicle came off the ground like a couple inches. You could feel it. Yeah, the winds were just so strong. So my wife, I was headed up to Laniapoko, and she said, if you go up there, I'm getting out of this car. And I tried to go down the front street. She goes, if you go anywhere other than out of Lahaina, I am getting out of this car and I'll hitchhike. And right at that time, the police were blocking off the roads, the upper highway there, and trying to make everyone go down to Front Street via Lahaina Luna. And I was going to get in that line, and my wife would not let me get in that line. So one guy tried to jump out of line, and the cops chased him. So my wife said, go now. And we turned around and we headed out of town, and we made it.
Wow.
And we were the first, and then the fire, did its thing and wiped out Lahaina. And we were the first truck with supplies waiting at 3 a.m. To get back into the burn zone. And we had to wait there like 2 hours till 5 a.m. Yeah, it was something else. And then, I mean, it's all a blur from there. We did fire relief for about 3 days, and our phones started ringing just off the hook. And we start putting in a lot of prefab orders. What we start to do right away is negotiate with our manufacturers, with our truckers, with our shippers, saying, hey, we need your help now. We need you guys to chip in and help the people of Lahaina. The unit that we were selling for $80,000, We had 45,000, 50,000 into it time we got it deployed. So by working with all the manufacturer shippers, they discounted quite a bit, and we were able to offer that house with the trailer, delivered, assembled, everything. We paid everything, all the expenses for $35,000 other than tax. That's the only thing that they had to pay above the 35,000. And we did almost 100 houses like that.
Wow.
And for the many of them, probably the majority, 60, 70%, we lost a little bit of money on because you have a hiccup and you have to get these supplies and redo it's just, it was kind of hard. It really was. But it was also the greatest blessing for us being able to put that deal together for the community. And we lost a little, we didn't lose a lot, and we used a lot of the monies that we had saved prior to the fire, and we're using those monies to help out the community. And it all worked out, we gained a lot of average, other than fire relief victims that were interested in purchasing. So it all ended up working out in the long run. Our company held together and we were able to grow and help quite a few people. We're working towards 150 houses now for mainly the fire survivors in the last 2.5.
Wow. So that's your main market that is buying the tiny homes, are the people who were the victims of the fire?
Yeah, I would say even today, 6 out of 10 of our clients are related to the Lahaina disaster.
Yeah. And have you guys come across any issues with putting up the tiny homes as far as permits and logistics go on the island? Because I know it can be a little bit more challenging logistically over here for basically everything.
Yes, you name it, whatever the challenge is, we faced it. Even with our shipping the prefab homes in, we got all these houses here, and then customs says, oh no, we need these special bonds because wood cabinets from overseas requires, 400% tariff and anti-dumping bonds. And it was just unbelievable. So we had to dig up $50,000 cash. Otherwise our shipments weren't going to be released, and they're actually being held hostage, and they belong to the fire survivors. It was quite a few challenges. And then of course the county played blocking tackle towards the community. And in hindsight, it's not so much the county's fault, it's the system, right? It's all the rules, regulations, and the way the system is set up for permitting and all of that. The system right there belongs to engineers, contractors, county employees. It's a network, right? And then here comes tiny homes that don't require any type of and everyone's freaking out. Like, well, we're going to put up 1,000 tiny homes. What are we doing? Everyone was like freaking out.
Yeah.
So the counties start telling people no tiny homes. And if you put an above ground septic tank, it was illegal. And this was really false information that went out for a couple months and really thwarted a lot of help. But we got that all worked out. We know almost all the parameters of setting up a tiny home. It is the responsibility of the person who owns the land or who is leasing the land. But we know almost all the rules. And to date, we have never had a single tiny home being told to take down. We've had to change a couple things here and there.
Yeah.
Some minor things. Yep. But never had one taken down yet.
So it sounds like you kind of help out with your customers if they do have questions about permitting and logistics when they're buying it, even though it is their responsibility. If you see something that could potentially pose a problem when you're selling one, do you kind of just tell them, you make sure you check this box before?
Yeah. So, you mentioned my wife and I started this. Let me quickly say that today we're now the number one tiny home company in all Hawaii.
Wow.
Um, and my wife and I have grown to a family of 14. So we have just the most amazing crew, and family. They're all literally family who work for us. And, they treat our business like family. We've never had anything stolen.
Yep.
You can't get them to take off work for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, honest to the core, just everything that we represent. We drew these people to us. And my wife and I, like I mentioned before, we come from, troubled backgrounds.
Yeah.
We both come from addiction,
Yeah.
and we had to overcome those addictions and reshape our lives with new values and stuff. And we have many years on that road now.
Mm-hmm.
But we also reach out to people in such situations who are looking to make life changes, who are already in that process. We have a really important rule that we don't help people who are not helping themselves.
Yep.
Otherwise, you get caught in their bad energy.
Totally.
So people who are putting forth efforts to make changes, those are the people we're very interested in helping.
Yep.
And it has gone amazing. Our whole business is full of such people with super high integrity who at one point in their lives didn't have such integrity. And we're
Yeah.
very proud of that. That's something we're extremely proud of.
Well, I love that you shared that, and I can relate. I also am an ex-addict. I got sober from heroin and every other drug at 19, was on methadone for 2.5 years after that, and then Suboxone for 9 months. So I extended my
Wow.
my
You went
separation.
through the ringer.
I went through it for sure in
Lots of
recovery.
experience.
Oh, man, yeah. So learning to be a human for the first time, really, because I didn't learn how to be like a proper human. That's why I went into addiction at such a young age. I mean, I was an IV drug user at age 15 and, dealt with homelessness and everything else that comes along with the lifestyle. And, yeah, when you have to learn how to be part of society, and what your value system is and what keeps you from, your drug of choice, your values are so important, and it's such a huge part of your every single day life, because you see it and you see what decisions lead you down the right or down the wrong path. You'll every little tiny thing, like every single time someone like is dishonest or does something that's out of integrity, you see that as someone who had to fight for your life, is that's a danger. Like, I don't want anything to do with that, because I know where I'm going and I know where I came from, and I don't want anything to do with that anymore. So it's really
And you got to guard against that for
totally,
sure. My
absolutely.
wife and I, within 6 months of meeting each other, we went on our first, I guess you'd call it business journey together. And I was stuck in addiction for such a long time that I had finally learned that one of the most deadly parts of addiction is the um, selfish, um, self-centered type of living, right? Where we just only
Yeah.
think of ourselves, how we feel about things, how things affect us, da 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 da. And I knew that was, when I'd heard that, that was a huge light for me, because that's all I thought about was me, Meyer, or Jim. So we started a jobs for homeless program in a program called Incredible Thrift. We opened 4 thrift stores and we used them to employ the homeless and giving the kids, mainly youth, a hand up versus a handout.
Yeah.
And it was really successful. We did that in Missouri, but we didn't worry about money. So because we didn't worry about money, we quickly found ourselves not having enough to get by. So, yeah, one thing led to another, but we still kind of do that now.
Yeah. I mean, I think that someone who's come out of that place and then translating those skills into business, the resilience, the problem solving, the determination that it even takes to, because just because you get sober doesn't mean that determination that you were channeling into your demise goes away. So now you have to channel the determination into something else, and it has to be constructive. So what better way to channel that into business and into good?
We cannot stay clean from the drugs and alcohol unless our life has substance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Totally.
value. We have to have values and like I say, a good moral compass, because otherwise we don't like ourselves. In my personal opinion, I think that plays more role in addiction than anything.
Totally.
Is we get into behaviors and patterns that cause us to hate ourselves.
100%.
And it's nearly impossible, in my opinion, to make good decisions that benefit yourself when you hate yourself.
Yeah, I agree.
Catch-22, yeah.
I always people like, you go from being so self-conscious and not liking yourself to like, how can I do anything to build my confidence? Because not even build it back, because it's not like you had it in the first place. So it's like building your confidence from ground zero, and every little action that you take that can build confidence, helping people is a huge one of those things that builds confidence, I think, because then you're like, oh, like I have the ability to not only help myself, but to help others. And like you said, give them a hand up instead of a hand out, which is huge as well, for especially people who are trying to change their lives. And I know, Ryan and I know one of your employees, and he's an awesome guy, and we're super proud of him and the changes he's made. And I just think it's great that you and Tenille are living your life and your business like this.
Yeah, we're living the dream, I guess, for sure. We don't live in a tiny home no more, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because I do miss it. I love tiny home living because it makes you take advantage of the outdoors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are you guys? What island are you guys on?
So we're on Molokai now. We've expanded over to Molokai. Well, as you mentioned in the beginning, we service all the islands,
Mm-hmm.
but as far as having a base yard and an office, we have those on Molokai and Maui. And
Awesome.
then, but we also, visit all the other islands for tiny homes when people need them.
So, I also saw on your website, I don't know if this is up to date or not, but do you guys service the mainland too? Do you ever do jobs?
Because of us servicing a FEMA job,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
which the Lahaina fires was qualified as a disaster.
Yep.
We have been drawn into both the North Carolina disasters and the Los Angeles County disaster.
Oh, wow.
So North Carolina ended up being a little funky because another group came to the rescue out there in North Carolina after the problems they had with FEMA.
Yeah.
So it looks like they're in really good shape, and they also have some of the hardest tiny home laws on earth is right there in North Carolina. So Los Angeles does too, but it looks like there's going to be a waiver out there for tiny homes. So we're following that closely, and we have a lot of people who are very interested right now.
Yeah, it's great.
And we do ship. If someone wanted a tiny home somewhere, we would give them a great deal and get that tiny home to them and help them get it set up.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. So would you like, have the option to bring out a crew or come out and set everything up?
Yep.
That's great. you had mentioned before, when my husband Ryan was talking to you, that your wife Tenille is super into the alternative building methods too. Not just tiny homes, but earthen homes and that world. Do you guys plan on expanding in that space at all, or?
Yes, and yes. That I get bored really easy. I have to be shooting for lofty things. It's
Yeah.
just my character.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of different things that we're directing our energy. So one of them is actually manufacturing the prefabs here on Molokai. And then we really want, with the laws changing, we really want to get into hemp. Hemp makes the best building materials on Earth. We're literally fireproof, mold-proof, bug-proof. I mean, they're such a crime done on our world, over hemp and them keeping it down like they did. But that's disappearing. So in my humble opinion, in the next 5 to 10 years, we are going to see a reversal. We're going to see the majority of hemp buildings, hemp foundations. I mean, all of it. Yep.
I'm super excited about that because I don't know if Ryan told you guys, but we lived in a moldy house in Phoenix that we didn't know was moldy, and it gave me all sorts of autoimmune symptoms. We didn't know what I was getting sick from because we travel about 50% of the time. So I kept getting sick when we'd go back home, and I was like going crazy thinking like, what is going on? I had like symptoms of MS. My face was twitching. I gained like 30 pounds. I mean, it was just craziness. And then we found out it was from the mold. And then I went down the rabbit hole of the natural building materials and alternative building methods. And I'm like getting into the construction industry and I'm like, why do we build this way? This doesn't make any sense. Like, it's not good for your health. It's all just for profit.
Yeah.
But it's really bad for the environment. And it's also really bad for people's health. And even what California and, Lahaina is experiencing with the byproduct of the fires and the environment, it's just something's got to give, something's got to change. So I'm with you. I think that alternative building is the future, and there's gonna be a huge reckoning in the housing industry because 80% of the houses are not safe to live in, to inhabit.
They're not. You're right. You are correct. And it's a shame. But, inch by inch, it's a cinch. Got to keep a positive attitude and deal with what's on the table today. So we just put our head down and we got, our favorite saying is just do the next right thing, right? And, when things get anxious and difficult, it's just literally just doing the next right thing. Is the savior of the day, from getting too distraught or caught up or negative. Because we have to survive as humans, and we have to be sensitive to each other, and we have to keep the values alive that mean something.
Totally.
So, and I think we have a big, I wouldn't call it a fight, but we have a big momentum heading back in that direction throughout the world, I think, right now.
Yeah.
And people are a little sensitive to the politics, and, it's a shame because just about 98% of it's just so fake, and, it's just totally derived to affect people emotionally, right?
Yeah.
So, but we have some really good politics happening, some really big changes. We're gonna take down all that fraud in our world. It's just a lot of fraud and a lot of lies that are country's been built on. So I see a lot of positive things happening.
I agree. I'm with you. It's like everything has to be exposed before you can make the changes. So it feels heavy, but it's always been like this. It's just people are more aware of it now, and they're like, okay, how do we change this? And even one of our other clients, she's on Bali right now, and she got invited to a conference, and it was actually a lot of people who are building conscious businesses, and there were home builders there, working on domes and alternative building materials and things like that. And so every time I hear about people who are in the alternative building space specifically, I get so excited. I'm like, yes, more of this, because it's like, for us who have really dove down the rabbit hole, it's all consuming, but
it is.
Most of the world doesn't even know about it still. So
I know. Well, that's the hard part. I think that's the hardest part. Even though I like to say we're in the Great Awakening, there are a lot of people still sleeping, and that's okay. They're gonna wake up slowly here and there. But our system is not as nice as they think it is, and things are not as clear as they think it is. And there's people are learning, they're learning, and that will continue, especially over the next 3 to 6 months. It's going to be a lot of information coming out, but at the same time, that the bad information, you have to expose the corruption, otherwise you can't heal, and there has to be accountability for that corruption as well. So exposing it, having accountability, now we all can move forward, right? And have a foundation to build upon. And that's good. It's bringing back good, honest values. And that's what our society needs. Debate is great as long as it's honest. Even dishonest debate is good, because ultimately it'll lead into honest debate, right? Because all things go through the wash, all things get exposed in due time.
That is the truth. That is.
And what they're doing to our atmosphere, the chemtrail, it's just so in our food, and all the political stuff. They're so into all this sexual child sex, and it's much bigger than a lot of people realize. The P. Diddy's, there's so many more of them, and they're all in politics. So the world's just gonna have to hold on, not judge, take in the information as it comes, and don't get too emotionally wrapped up in it, and gravitate towards the good, because there's a lot of good.
Totally. You ever see that meme of like the person like throwing up in the toilet, and it's like, the world going through their first dark night of the soul when I'm on my like 10th?
But there is relief when we get up from the toilet. There's always relief getting that garbage out of us.
Totally.
It's just a personal thing. I mean, every human should, I think, should demand that honesty in their life, the clarity, and that their information is honest and based. Of course, I'm almost 60 years old now, so, I can look back through all those stages of my life, and some of those stages I did not care, right? I didn't see why it was really that important that you told the truth, or that you didn't feel. I didn't understand the value of values. I really didn't.
Yeah.
And it's, most of it's just related to karma, right? It's just, we reap what we sow, and that's true.
I agree. Totally. I'm with you. And I believe in honest business, honest work. This is the Outwork'em Podcast. So sometimes when you're doing honest work, you got to work twice as hard for twice as long until you do reap
for
what
twice as less. For twice as less. Yeah.
But it always pays off, right? Like you
It does.
go to bed at night with a clear conscience, and it only takes one of those deals that just changes your life. So,
And the magic, in my opinion, the magic is people that live on that plane.
mm-hmm.
We all gravitate ultimately towards each other, which makes us a part of the larger whole. And
Mm-hmm.
I really see that happening in our world right now. It's kind of like there's a big spiritual battle happening behind the scenes. It really feels like that, feels like it's more than just this earthly stuff we're talking about. It seems like so much more is happening behind the scenes. It's kind of weird. I'm not super religious or anything. I'm just open-minded. Yeah.
No, I'm with you for sure. There's definitely more to. I mean, even our perception is skewed from reality. Like we can really only perceive a small percentage of the frequencies and the light spectrums that are available or in existence anyway. So like to think that the physical, tangible reality is all that's going on is kind of illogical, really. It's more likely that there's more layers and happenings
Through that.
thing at once.
And we'll know, I mean, I know now that I'm older in life, I know that I'll never reach that desired spot where I'm like, I have most of the knowledge. It is, it's the same for me at almost 60 as it was for me at 18, where I was just soaking up information. I've always been an information sponge, and I like to research stuff, especially get burned a couple times, right? How many things have I believed that turned out to be just totally bogus? So I don't want to go through that as little as possible. So I do good research. I'm just more based today, not so excitable and caught in all the hoopla.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you bought into something totally, and then you have to humble yourself on the addition of information on it. Like I always have a huge expansion when I bought into something so heavily, and then I get more information because I'm always open to more information, and then like, oh wait, that actually wasn't true. I got propaganded, or I got sold on, and we're in marketing too. So now I look through a marketing lens, and I was just telling my husband Ryan this morning, like when we were on our walk, I was like, we're not polarizing enough as marketers. Because like, the clickbait and the this and that, and it is a real thing. Like people don't pay attention unless you get them in that first few seconds and say something that's really stimulating for them to be like, oh, I want to listen to this because they have an opinion about it. And if you want to play on people's opinions, you have to say something that's going to be polarizing.
Exactly.
Yeah. But so if someone was looking to work with you guys and buy a tiny home, what is the best way to get a hold of you? What does the process look like? How long does it take?
Okay. All right, let me start. So our most popular, most of the units we're doing 99% right now are prefabs, but we have, we didn't like the prefabs. We really hated the market because they were kind of cheap and stuff. So we have upgraded ours. The one we're dealing with now, 17 different upgrades, major upgrades. So our prefabs are really nice right now. All installed on a trailer, delivered, shipped, everything. About a 90-day process average, sometimes less, and about 65 grand or so, right in that. All done with tax, everything all installed, less than a new truck. And we got lots of customizations that they can do. And they can reach out to us either by phone at 808-707-8283, or they can go on to our website, which is AAA-tinyhomes.com. But our best place to go, it has all of our newest work and stuff. We really update our Facebook page a lot.
Okay.
And that Facebook page. We have two. The one we really update the most is AAA Tiny Home Consultants. And that has a lot of our most recent models, our work with Los Angeles and stuff like that.
That's awesome. And do you, when you're like telling people your business name, do you say AAA or is it AAA Tiny Homes?
I try to always say AAA because people will get confused and want to spell it out AAA. Yeah, but most people catch on, a little of both.
And what is the story behind your guys' name?
So, well, there was some competition out there and we were kind of having trouble coming up with a name. And we're like, my wife says, well, we want to have A, we want to have an A in our name, for the search engine, right?
Yeah.
So we're like, let's just do AAA Tiny Homes. And that stuck. We threw it out on Facebook to our friends. They're like, yeah, we love it. And so,
That's awesome. I am really excited to get the people knowing about what you guys are doing. It's always great to get builders who are in integrity out there. Definitely have, we're blessed to the people that we take into our business are people that we also like working with and we know who are integral and
we refer. We do a lot of referrals.
Yeah. And just getting to know different builders, different styles, the people behind the building. My family has a background in construction and my uncle's a GC out of California, and so I know a little bit behind the curtain of the building world, and it's always great to see people who are doing it right and working with the right people and not you got to make money, you got to have a business, right? But some people are out there just taking people for all they're worth. So I'm glad that you guys are making it accessible for people to get in homes in this market that we're in right now. It's so valuable. And excited to get you guys out there and let the world know about AAA Tiny Homes. Do you have any parting words for any of the listeners for today?
Well, I just want to thank everyone. Really, really grateful when people take the time and listen to shows such as these and take an interest in community things and things that are of value to the community. It's always great. And that's it. We just love our community so much. That's our fuel, really. It's just helping our community. It's our fuel. It's what drives us.
And would love to grab dinner with you and your wife. I'm sure me and Tenille would nerd out together pretty heavily. So let us know when you're over on Maui before we head back to Arizona in May. And maybe we'll make it happen.
All right. We'll keep that in mind. We might be coming over in April. In fact, I'm pretty sure we are. We'll reach out if we do.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Jim. Aloha.
All right. Thank you so much. Aloha to everyone.